You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Serious about business.
Welcome to another corporate events coverage, and on this occasion BATV will be bringing you highlights from the Jamaica Institute of Financial Services GIF's Anniversary and Awards Cocktail. This evening's proceedings will be guided by the theme Renew, Refocus and Reposition, as the organization celebrates its 40th anniversary as a game changer in the industry. I'm your host Andrew Laidley. Stay with us. I'm here with Miss Darlene Jones. She's the Executive Director of GIFs. Hello, it's your 40th anniversary. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yes, it's our 40th year of existence and we're quite excited about it. 40, you might not know, means new beginnings, and our focus is on renewal, reposition and refocus. And so we have been doing quite a number of new things to ensure that we keep on the cutting edge, to ensure that our stakeholders are properly equipped with the relevant knowledge to work in the financial services sector.
So renew, refocus and reposition. Talk to me a little bit about how the theme was conceptualized for this evening's cocktail.
Right, the financial services sector is very dynamic. Things change very regularly. So when we were thinking about what it is that our focus would be, we thought that it's important for us to ensure that we keep renewing ourselves, repositioning ourselves. And so the theme came about. We actually, earlier in the year, our anniversary was actually the 24th of February. On that date, we had Michael Jones handing over to our new chair of our executive committee, Dr. Rickard Allen. So that was a part of the renewal as well.
I'm here with Mr. Courtney Campbell. He's the president and CEO of the Victoria Mutual Group. Hello. The GIFs is celebrating 40 years. How monumental is that?
I think it's a significant achievement, not only in terms of the number of years, but in terms of the quality of service that they have offered to the financial services sector over the years.
When you look at the Jamaican financial services sector, where are we in terms of a global look at things?
I think we're globally competitive, and what GIFs has done is to train lots of professionals that have helped to develop this industry over the years. So in the early years, when I just joined the industry just over 30 years ago, they used to focus on the Associate of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, that program called the ACIB. And that was really the program that trained the bankers, taught you how to lend, and the laws relating to banking and about investments and so on. Years later, they then started to offer the MBA program, MBA in Finance, jointly offered by the Manchester Business School and the University of Wales. And again, that program provided several scores of professionals to apply some best practices in the financial services sector in Jamaica. And so many of us who are leaders now in the sector are here because of the work done over the years by the Jamaica Institute of Financial Services. It was initially called the Jamaica Institute of Bankers, but the programs were broadened to include other financial services outside of banking.
Based on where GIFs is right now, what would you say is the trajectory for the company in the next, say, 10 years or 20?
I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see GIFs deepening its partnership with the industry. For the most significant part of GIF's history, it's been, in a sense, a child of the Jamaica Bankers Association. But some years ago, the name was changed to become the Jamaica Institute of Financial Services. And I think we're going to see GIFs increasingly broadening its mandate in a way that's perhaps more significantly aligned with its name change. So I think we're going to see deepening its reach in the sector and being more focused on mining the learning needs of the sector and ensuring that those people who are employed in the sector don't miss anything, and that they are the beneficiaries of the best opportunities for development and sharpening of the skills of the employees in the sector. I think the Jamaican banking and financial services industry does deserve to have the best skills running the institute, running the organizations, performing the functions as part of the contribution of the sector to ensuring that Jamaica is a great place to live and do business.
Good evening and welcome to our 40th anniversary and awards cocktail. A very special welcome to past chairs of the Institute, Messrs. Raymond Campbell and Wayne Ray, as well as Ms. Dulcie Cameron, founding administrator. Socrates once said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Throughout the years, the financial services sector has always been a very dynamic industry, and with disruption being a major factor, there is constant need for re-evaluation of our efforts to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our financial sector and staying on top of the trends and changes. Hence, this year's theme is Renew, Refocus, Reposition. The fact is, globalization is rapidly redefining today's financial and business environment, and as such, significant strategic shifts are imperative to growth. At GIFS, we seek to further develop the finance practice by building a bank of knowledge and understanding of the sector. Tonight, with a renewed and refocused energy, we are here to celebrate the milestone of achievement of our 40th anniversary, and we are pleased to recognize the contribution of individuals and organizations that have been key contributors to GIF's existence and success, as well as the overall development of the financial sector as we know it today.
2017 marks the 40th anniversary of the Jamaica Institute of Financial Services. Having been inaugurated on the 24th of February 1977 as the Jamaica Institute of Bankers, JIOB, under the sponsorship of the Bank of Jamaica. The JBA assumed responsibility of the operations of GIFS in 1999, and with that, the organization underwent structural and strategic changes in an effort to reflect its mandate to support the financial services industry through training, research, and social exchange. GIFS, as we know it, is the product of years of dedicated work, forgive me, and solid, goal-oriented leadership. The culmination of years of conceptualizing and planning geared at professionalizing banking as a career among Jamaicans. The number 40 is significant, not solely because it is symbolic of new beginnings, but also because any organization that is able to aptly adapt to the ongoing, ever-evolving economic climate, especially given the current conditions, is a testament to the strength of the leadership of the GIFS. I believe it is fitting that the theme of the celebration of our 40th year is Renew, Refocus, Reposition, especially since now more than ever, the financial services sector is more dynamic and riddled with disruption, thereby requiring constant evaluation and the need for a more professional approach. As demonstrated in our earlier celebratory passing of the baton event, GIFS will only grow from strength to strength as the chairmanship of the organization is passed from the very capable Michael McAnuff-Jones to Dr. Rickert Allen, who I am convinced is endowed with the prerequisite skills to propel the organization forward.
And on that note, we take our first break. More after this.
Home is where all the sweetness, silliness, and beauty of life happens. Discover your style and express yourself with furniture from the Ashley Furniture Home Store. Visit any of our 2 locations at Ligony Kingston or Fairview Montego Bay. Find the most exquisite range of furniture in varying styles to suit your needs. So tell your story with elegant and affordable lounge, bedroom, dining pieces, and more from the Ashley Furniture Home Store. Here at Ashley, this is home.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On point with Kalila Reynolds and Dennis Chung. Dissecting the issues. On Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
We're taking you beyond our shores, across the region and around the world. Every week, BATV gives you in-depth reporting on the major stories that gripped headlines in the Caribbean and on the international scene.
Join us Sundays for This Week Abroad.
Business Access TV, serious about business at home and abroad.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, Business Access TV is here at the Jamaica Institute of Financial Services 40th Anniversary and Awards Cocktail. Now for more highlights.
I'm very happy to be associated with this event where we are recognizing the hard work and efficiency of persons in the financial sector. We're at a time now, we're at a great moment in Jamaica's history. And the lessons of excellence that are being celebrated this evening are a good point of departure for a discussion about the future. Don't worry, we won't have a long discussion now. But the truth is that there are so many opportunities out there now for inclusiveness and for growth. And we have to stop talking about growth and really begin to grow the economy. Jamaica has been in a kind of no growth fatigue for maybe 20 years, if not more. We have to get back on track now to see how we can aggressively grow the economy and, yes, move from poverty to prosperity. And we can't do that without the inclusiveness of the financial sector. We can't do that without moving from a less formal economy to a more formal economy. The global environment is requiring it. De-risking is a major issue. We are being forced into the need to encourage our small businesses and medium and micro enterprises to get into knowing what you're going to do, planning for it, writing a business plan, knowing your markets, identifying new market opportunities locally and abroad, and finding the appropriate windows for financing at attractive interest rates. We have established over the past year a Financial Inclusion Council. We have a steering committee, of which I'm the chairman, managed by the Bank of Jamaica. We want to create more financial inclusion.
GIFS is proud of the significant impact it has had on professional development of the financial services industry in particular, and the wider business community in general. Many individuals and organizations have been impacted both locally as well as overseas. This has been achieved through various partnerships and collaborations. That being said, In celebration of the GIF's 40th anniversary of existence, GIFs would like to award and recognize individuals and organizations who have been through GIF's programs or have contributed to GIF's existence. This is where we get to the awards. And the awardee walking away with the Industry Pioneer Award is Mr. Patrick Hilton. In the early years, the Jamaica Institute of Bankers, now the Jamaica Institute of Financial Services, entered into an agreement with the College of Arts, Science and Technology, CAST, to organize a program of study leading to the Associate of Institute of Bankers. Patrick Hilton was one of the first graduates of that program. He now heads one of the leading financial institutions in Jamaica, the National Commercial Bank, which has performed credibly under his leadership. In the celebration of its 40 years of professional development of the financial services sector, GIFs salutes Mr. Patrick as a pioneer outstanding graduate. Congratulations. And the awardee who walks away with the Stalwart in Banking Excellence Award is Mr. Peter Moses. He brought a penny section, I see. Several changes have taken place in the financial sector, but one main constant with a sense of stability is Peter Moses. He has held a distinctive career in banking and has played a critical role in the advancement of a number of young bankers who now hold senior positions within the banking industry. His commitment and dedication to the banking profession and the financial services industry is unmatched. He is well respected among his peers and has led with distinction Citibank Jamaica, the Top Corporate Supporter Award. And the awardee is JMMB. Thank you. I invite Ms. Simone Dunbar, HR Admin Manager of JMMB, to collect the award on behalf of JMMB, the Top Corporate Supporter Award. And the awardee who walks away with the Transformational Award is Michael McAnuff Jones. This is our leader of GIF's transformation. And the awardee for the Lifetime Achievement Award, longest serving GIF's Council Chair, is Pamela Smith. The Institute is governed by the Council, which is made up of the Chief Executive Officers of each bank. In the celebration of its 40 years of professional development of the financial services sector, we recognize Mrs. Pamela Smith, the Lifetime Achievement Award. This goes to Coretta Foster. Coretta Foster. I saw her earlier and I said her highlights were amazing. The gentlemen are probably saying, what highlights? What is that? The GIF's Executive Committee, JBA Education Committee, which is made up of senior HR professionals from the financial services sector, is the management committee which oversees the operations of GIFs.
We take our final break, but don't go anywhere. We'll have more highlights for you after this.
This is Weekend Business Report. Economic windfall.
Unsecured loans.
Alleged corruption.
Follows the closure.
If they made this investment.
Brokers strive to increase revenues.
He sought some answers.
Financial meltdown.
Here are the week's final numbers. Here's Garth. News Roundup.
Camille, it's back to you.
That's Weekend Business Report with me, Keneal Gale, Saturdays and Sundays.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show and Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV. Serious about business.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Now here's more from the Jamaica Institute of Financial Services 40th Anniversary and Awards Cocktail.
On behalf of the Jamaica Institute of Financial Services, I would like to once again congratulate our esteemed awardees. Congratulations. Your support has really meant a lot to us. I would like to say thanks to everyone that has made this event possible. It's with joy in my heart. It really is a great evening. Thanks to the Spanish Court Hotel for this beautiful location to celebrate this special occasion, and to Blueprint team for decor and execution services. To our Master of Ceremonies, Terry Carell, for the professional and skillful way in which he has guided the evening's proceedings. To Wayne Armand for creating the right atmosphere with his entertainment. It is with gratitude that I acknowledge our key partners on this, our 40th anniversary celebration. Silver sponsors, the Bank of Jamaica, Blueprint Consulting, J. Ray and Nephew. It's good to have the right spirit, right? We started with the right spirit, with prayer, and of course we had J. Ray and Nephew as well. JMMB, JN Bank, NCB, bronze sponsors, Business Access TV, Guardsman Group, JDIC, Sagicor, also to Citibank, CIBC, First Global Bank, Guardian Life, Victoria Mutual for their generous contributions. I would like to acknowledge the GIFS team, Colleen and Garfield. Are you here? Colleen and Garfield for their commitment and dedication, as usual, working at the back. Your support is really appreciated. Thanks to the planning committee, the team that worked behind the scenes to ensure this amazing anniversary celebration. Special thanks to committee members, Makiba Bennett Easy, Coretta Foster, Jerome Griffiths, Nikisha Barclay, Dejanay Black, and Naomi Garrick. Thank you so much for your hard work and dedication, which has helped to make this evening a success. Thanks to you all, our special guests, partners, tutors, past and present students, past team members, awardees, and the media for coming out tonight. Your presence has meant a lot to us, and we're extremely grateful that you were able to join us for this delightful evening.
I'm here with Mr. Patrick Hilton, an honorary awardee here tonight. How do you feel about the award?
I'm very happy to receive this award. I think that I'm always appreciative of persons recognizing, what I might have accomplished. And I'm particularly happy for this one because JIFS at the time was the Jamaica Institute of Bankers, has played a very important role in my professional development.
In all your years of service, how has the Jamaica financial services sector grown?
I mean, the Jamaican financial services sector has evolved in many different ways. If you look at the way in which banking is conducted today, if you look at investment services, if you look across the insurance landscape, there's been significant change, a lot of automation, changes in the way in which transactions are conducted, changes in consumer expectations, right across the gamut. Any aspect of it you can think of has witnessed significant change. And what is interesting is continuing to change and change even more rapidly.
I'm here with Minister Audley Shaw, Minister of Finance and the Public Service. Of course, 40 years of existence, the GIFS. How monumental is that for Jamaica?
Very important. I mean, it's not too far away from independent Jamaica in terms of our years. But I think what is more important is the contribution that this agency has made to building professionalism in the financial sector, in banking sector and other financial services. And I think it's appropriate that they have this celebration and of course to single out some persons for excellence. Because one of the things we have to remind our citizens of, especially our students in school, and there's a saying that in the pursuit of excellence, one person can make a difference. And what we have to encourage everybody is to go home, look in the mirror and say, in the pursuit of excellence, I am going to make a difference.
And what do you think we can do to sustain an organization like GIFS?
Well, of course, it takes professionalism and it takes consistency. And that, by the way, that is what wealth creation is about, Wealth creation is not an overnight thing. It's a steady process of consistent hard work and efficiency that yields results and yields positive results and yields success and wealth creation.
It's been 40 years for GIFS, and I'm sure at JMMB you would have played a part in the financial services sector here at GIFS. So what has that been like?
It has been a very good experience for us because GIFS provides programs that really help our staff, our team generally, to develop in terms of what they need for the local and international markets. They provide short courses and master's degree programs that really support the direct learning and development for bankers and persons in the banking industry, and also for the wider financial industry. And we've really been utilizing the services they offer for the staff members at JMMB. In the presentation, they mentioned that over 200 team members from JMMB have participated, and we can see the benefits of that with the learning that they put in the services that we offer, how we serve the knowledge that we give to our clients.
Now, JMMB has just transitioned from a merchant bank to a commercial bank. Did GIFS play a role in that? What was the role?
Well, the thing is, it wouldn't be a direct impact, but the knowledge and skills that the team members have, especially when it comes to KYC and that sort of thing, really plays a part, because their annual anti-money laundering conference is something that we support every year, and quite a number of our team members participate.
How important do you think it is that an organization like GIFS stays in existence?
It is important because not every institution can house or train for all the skills that we need in the company. So being able to go to another organization that provides these services as they're needed, it really works. So it's a win-win for companies, for the businesses in the banking and financial industry, and for GIFS.
That brings us to the end of the Jamaica Institute of Financial Services GIFS 40th Anniversary and Awards Cocktail. I'm your host, Andrew Lady, and thanks for tuning in to Business Access TV, serious about business.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
Whether on paper or by performances, the information was well received as schools participated in the JIS Heritage School Tour. Don't miss the highlights coming up in today's show, plus motivating our youth to bring out the greatness in them. Hello, I'm Adrian Atkinson, and you're watching Jamaica Magazine.
Did you know that since we started our Ease Up on the Energy campaign, that electricity use in government buildings has dropped by around 4,200 kilowatt hours per building per month? We retrofitted and replaced old, inefficient air conditioning units with new energy-efficient models. That saved approximately $123 million for the government of Jamaica. What are you waiting for? I'm Hilary Alexander, asking all Jamaicans to join us and ease up on the energy. Ease up on the energy. Ease up on the energy.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, November 8. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is confirming that several persons of Jamaican heritage have received British citizenship under the Windrush scheme. Portfolio Minister Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith says the legal status of over 1,000 persons was settled between April and July of this year.
The ministry continues to support affected persons seeking support, but now we are also more heavily focused on the critical aspect of the compensation scheme. That's the method by which persons will seek to be put back in the position which they would have been had the wrongs under the immigration policy not been conducted against them.
Senator Johnson-Smith was addressing reporters at her ministry's quarterly press briefing in Kingston on Wednesday. The Windrush scheme is a move by the British government to rectify and formalize the legal status of Jamaicans and other Caribbean nationals who were taken to the UK between 1948 and 1971 to fill job vacancies, but who have since faced deportation due to missing or destroyed documents. In other foreign affairs news, the Portfolio Minister is reporting that Jamaica and its colleague countries in CARIFORUM are close to signing a post-Brexit trade deal with the United Kingdom. Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith says the technical work is close to being finalized for a new CARIFORUM UK Economic Partnership Agreement, EPA.
I myself will be joining my CARIFORUM colleagues towards the end of this month in St. Lucia, together with UK trade officials, where we hope to finalize and perhaps sign the agreement. This process, the timing of which may seem aggressive to you, is to ensure that our interests are secure and that all relevant parties, including the UK, will be able to go through their respective parliamentary processes prior to March 30th, 2019, which is, of course, going to take us to Brexit +1.
In the meantime, Minister Johnson-Smith assures that the European Union remains an important trade partner for Jamaica and its CARIFORUM colleagues. She says the EPA will remain in place and continues to be the framework for trade with the EU.
So we continue to work towards its ratification and to call on entrepreneurs and other players in the private sector to explore opportunities within this framework, even as we seek to improve its implementation.
And on the heels of the midterm congressional and Senate elections in the United States this week, the Foreign Affairs Minister says Jamaica looks forward to continued bilateral and multilateral arrangements with the American government. Following Tuesday's elections, the Democratic Party now has control of the House of Representatives, while the Republican Party maintains its majority in the Senate. At her ministry's quarterly briefing on Wednesday, Senator Johnson-Smith extended congratulations on behalf of the Jamaican government to all successful candidates.
Jamaica's relationship with the United States of America has always been strong across administrations, and it continues so to be.
Chief Justice Brian Sykes says court registrars are already setting trial dates for 2019 and 2020 to help increase hearing date certainty. This is one of several benchmarks that measure the efficiency of court operations, and it refers to the certainty that cases will begin on the scheduled date. The Chief Justice says the forward planning is important as the latest data reveals that some parish courts fell below the international benchmark of 92 to 100% hearing date certainty.
In the parish courts for the period ending April to June of 2018, that's the last quarter for which we have statistics, the hearing date certainty is 77%. So that tells you that we are already, if you do the rough calculation, 15% off from where we need to be.
Justice Sykes was speaking at a JP training seminar organized by the Justice Ministry last Saturday. People living in the Papine-Mona environs of St. Andrew are to receive a fire station soon. The University of the West Indies will be partnering with the Jamaica Fire Brigade to build the station.
The University of the West Indies, following the discussions, has identified a plot of land for the construction of a new fire station on the campus of the University of the West Indies.
The closest fire stations to the Papine-Mona community area are the ones at Rollington Town and Halfway Tree. The local government minister says the new fire station will be energy efficient and boast water harvesting features, among other modern amenities. And finally, the local government minister has also revealed plans to establish another 3 fire stations within the next year. One at Barnett Street in Montego Bay is to begin construction by March under a $475 million contract. Minister Desmond McKenzie says that contract was put to tender and the formalities are to be completed soon. Meanwhile, he says the drawings for the Yallahs Fire Station are being finalized and preparations for the third are also advanced.
It is expected that work on the Port Maria Fire Station will begin at the end of April, coinciding with the new financial year 2019-2020. And that station will cost some $241 million.
The fire stations are being funded through a partnership with the Jamaica Social Investment Fund. Minister McKenzie provided the update during his ministry's quarterly press briefing on Friday. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
We have a subculture that supports those who do not inform, an anti-informer culture that pervades our entire society that we must break down.
30 schools across the island toured in 1 month, engaging and being engaged by hundreds of students. It was an impactful experience, and we have the highlights in part 1 of the JIS Heritage School Tour 2018.
Information Service, and this is what we do. JIS is supposed to promote the programs and policies of the government of Jamaica.
The JIS is also committed to spreading awareness on national issues like our rich culture and heritage. It's the 8th staging of our annual JIS Heritage Month School Tour, and as customary, we have traveled across the length and breadth of Jamaica to impart knowledge and what students showcase our rich cultural heritage. Here are the highlights. This year, The tour bus carried the heritage message to more than 24 schools. We've split the journey in two, and on this leg, you get to witness what over half of those student bodies and the JIS team had to offer.
When we come here, we be on the island. We culture rich, so is the tradition. Jamaica is a place I call my homeland. We have so much to boast about all over the world. We history float. We have sweet reggae music for rock to Bob Marley. One love remain on the tongues of the people.
Trust me when I tell you, that's just a toops of what St. Anne had to offer. But with no time to spare, it's off to the cool, cool hills of North Clarendon. As customary, we conducted lively question and answer sessions, donated books and posters on aspects of our culture, and of course, were entertained by the talents of our youth.
We're going to learn a little bit more about Jamaican heritage by watching a very short video that was done in the television department.
And after watching attentively, the brilliant students were ready to share all they had learned.
We are going to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. Give yourselves a round of applause. Very good, very good, very good.
Then it was time to creatively display just how much they really knew about our heritage.
Nanny Nanny, queen of the hills, mountain blue, we honor you. Strong black woman, full of pride, brave, conscious, fearless too. A superwoman in my eyes. Myth or legend, it's up to you to decide.
I attended the school, started in 1971. It's how long ago that was, to 1976. It was a nice experience coming inside here.
We have 6 heroes and 1 heroine. We're free from slavery, and that we are telling. We're independent, we're free. Me eye, me head, and me teeth. Lord appears to seduce. Me cry, and me nah get no blind. Lord appears to seduce. I sit down, and I fret. Cause the job me no get.
shoulders to the beat.
Mathematics, it does this on my brain. Mathematics, it does this on my brain. Schoolwork, but for drive me insane. Teacher, I teach our lesson of read mathematics. You are go get defeat. Add, be a add, multiply. Don't say a add, be a add, multiply. Till the end of the day we are going one top.
One love, one family, one heritage. Thanks for watching Jamaica Magazine. Woo!
We've come to the end of today's Heritage School Tour, but thank you so much for joining with us. For part 2, all you have to do is tune in tomorrow, same time, same station, where we will bring you highlights of the other parishes. See you then.
$650 students, $100 million. How are they connected? Through the Hospitality and Tourism Management Program offered at 32 high schools across the island. It's a 2-year program to equip future tourism workers with the requisite skills to meet the demands of the growing global industry. Graduates will be certified by the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute and received an associate degree from a local college. We're building a resilient tourism industry through human capital development.
A lot of attention is being given to young people as the country observes Youth Month in November. The students at Penwood High School welcomed Prime Minister Andrew Holness as he encouraged them to always seek out improvement.
The first step of wanting to get empowerment and be empowered is you must never be satisfied with the way you are. You must always be seeking to improve. So you must always be seeking more, seeking better, because you can always do better. You can always improve. And I believe that sometimes in our society, we don't always encourage people to improve. Even in our household, we tend to say, well, you're just like your daddy, meaning to say you're not going to be better than what your father or parent has achieved. You go on like you're better than people, meaning to say that we must all stay at the lower stage and not seek to improve ourselves. In fact, you know, there is this thing in our culture that makes it appear as if someone is trying to improve themselves, they are doing something bad. That is true, right? When what we should be doing is to applaud people who work hard and achieve. Right? Yes, that's what we should do. But somehow in our culture we have turned it upside down. And it is very pervasive in the classroom, because you see what happens is it provides cover for people who are lazy and people who don't want to change and people who are set on a pathway to failure. So they don't want anyone doing better than the average, because then they will have to put out a little bit more effort. Now, if that is allowed to be the common standard in the society, then our society will never improve. So one of the things I want to give you today is that you must never be ashamed of success. And you must always seek to be the best at what you do, to be excellent.
How many is that? 20. All right, so of my population, we have strongly agreed. So let's count up all the persons who agreed over here. Count 10 plus 2, 12 persons agreed. Everybody understands what was taught a while ago about interconnection?
The work so that when we go home, we can be able to study it on our own, so we can get better grades or good grades on our tests, so that we can get something. It makes me feel very happy to know that there is a teacher who might help me if I do not understand.
Assurance means so much to our children. It's motivation for them to perform at their very best, even right here in the classroom. And my little friends, Miracle, Alyssa, Brianna, and Latanya will agree as I ask them this very important question. Why do you want your teacher to make sure that you are learning?
Because in our future, we'll have to get some good careers, and it will mess us up. For instance, if you're going to be a chef, you got to learn what ingredients to use and what to not use.
As Miracle said, it will interfere with our future if we don't get a good education or not. So it is very important for our teachers to teach us so that it doesn't interfere with our careers and our future.
Affirm me that I can learn.
What do you want from your teacher?
Like her attitude supposed to be good. So if I say I don't understand, and she's doing it over and over again, and she be making up her face, I like her to work on her accent. Well, I would like her to work on the way she explains it, because it would be nice if they would go a little slower and go through it with us so that we can get to understand it properly. Affirm me so that I can learn.
Thomas, you heard the students. They say they want teachers to explain more to them. They want them to don't speak too soft or too harsh to them to make sure that they are learning. What do you say to that?
First and foremost, I do believe, like the children, that teachers have to be patient. And even though somebody may be a very good student in one subject area, they may not be a very good student in another subject area. And secondly, explanation is part of the curriculum.
What are some of the things that you do? What are some of the methods that you use as a teacher to make sure that your students are learning?
Some students understand quicker, some don't, so we can pair them up with those who don't understand, because sometimes peer learning is better than even us explaining. But I find that they understand better and they understand longer, so they remember longer when they work on it themselves, and it is the same for us as adults. So the confidence that they have help them to develop and want to learn more, even if the topic is something that they didn't like in the first place.
It is good to know that you have somebody that you can go to that is willing to help you to understand what is being taught. Affirm me so that I can learn. I feel good when my teacher gives me good comments on my work.
Like, keep it up. Good job. And those are some compliments that will motivate children as they go on in life.
I will continue to affirm my students that their learning benefits them.
Affirm me that I can learn.
What Jamaica needs now is greater production.
Not just by some, but by everyone.
Yes, we must work hard to keep our country alive and export more in order to survive.
What Jamaica needs now is greater conservation. Not just by some, but by the entire nation. If we use less gasoline and electricity, we'll save more in exchange to benefit our country. What Jamaica needs now, what Jamaica needs now is greater productivity. That's what Jamaica needs now. What Jamaica needs now, what Jamaica needs now.
As we close today's show, we ask that you stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
I am Shani Jaja, and you're watching Business Access.
You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Serious about business.
Business Access TV is here at the JSC Core Competencies to Excel as a Corporate Secretary. I'm your host, Andrew Laidley. Please stay with us.
I wish to welcome you to yet another workshop, Corporate Secretaries Workshop. As you know, we have these workshops each year, and the reason we continue to do so is that we feel that we should be at the cutting edge of any changes that is occurring in whether locally or globally. We feel that the workshops have been beneficial to us so far, and that with each day when we have these changes, we should continue to look at educating the persons in this industry. This morning and this workshop is very special, as we will be hosting, it is being hosted in association with the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators. And as we move towards introducing the Corporate Governance Index, I think today is especially important so that we can see how this can be incorporated into what we do as company secretaries and others within the industry. It is especially important that we look at this to see how our companies will score higher in terms of corporate governance. Today is intended to be a very good workshop based on the persons who will be presenting. So I invite you to stay tuned, ask the relevant questions, and ensure that when we leave here, we can implement what we have learned.
The Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators is an institution that certifies secretaries, chartered secretaries, and I believe it is the only institution in the world that does that. It's incorporated by Royal Charter and has its base in England, London, England. And our dear leader, Simon Osborne, is the CEO of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries. In Jamaica, we have the Association of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators, which is a branch of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries. Today, we are very happy to be hosting this seminar with the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and I hope that what we present today, you might find something to take away from it, because we are going to try to give you something practical that you can use in your everyday life.
Governance has to suit each jurisdiction. One size cannot fit all. Even within a peer group of companies engaged in similar activities, similar business, because the dynamic is going to be different, because the business conditions are going to be different, the governance framework will necessarily be different. And as you comply or explain, also within a peer group of companies doing the same, broadly the same activity, you will find that they comply in different ways. And that's the beauty of a code of principles. So what do we mean by governance? The Cadbury definition, the process by which an organization is directed or controlled. The other perceived virtue of corporate governance on the part of politicians and policymakers is that it leads to increased opportunities and choice for all. Now that's one of those wonderful glib expressions that rolls off the tongue of a politician. And it sounds wonderful, doesn't it? But what on earth does it mean? As a political aspiration, it's great. Opportunities and choice for all. Hurrah, yeah, we'll all vote for that. But can we really expect corporate governance to deliver such an overtly political objective? I'll leave that one hanging in the air. Poor old Bob Diamond, he gets a bit of a caning over this one. He did actually say that corporate governance is not how you behave when you think no one is watching. He did actually say that. But I think it's a good reminder that, you know, there's no point trying to do one thing, say one thing and do another. That sort of hypocrisy, you'll get found out eventually. The truth will always out. Governance is concerned with the exercise of power, the role of directors, the responsibilities of shareholders and how those are balanced. And it also deals with disclosure, transparency, accountability, internal control, and making sure you avoid that concentration of power in too few hands. Hence the desire, well, I mean, it's now become standard, certainly in the UK. America's finding it harder, but actually separating the roles of chairman and chief executive so that you achieve a more constructive tension at the top levels in the C-suite. What are some of the governance hot topics? Well, I don't know what it's like here, but remuneration in the UK never ceases to amaze me. I mean, and the way in which non-executive directors serving on remuneration committees aren't smelling the coffee, I just don't get it. But and the United States is just as bad. And what that is leading to is remuneration which is detached from performance, or levels of remuneration, detached from performance, are just leading to increasing inequality of wealth. And I think that could lead to unfortunate consequences socially. And it's something that has to be tackled. Hot topic. Legal risk has risen up the scale of corporate risks. The whole board diversity thing, gender is a major factor, but there is no doubt about it, board behaviour improves the more women join the board. And I know that from my own experience, funny enough, in a charity where I was deputy chair and I chaired the nomination committee. And I had to wield the knife. I removed 6 older male trustees, brought in 4 ladies, all of whom were younger. The average age came down. The speed with which business was transacted improved. Shorter board meetings, I'll drink to that, made a difference. Now that's one example, but I think there's no doubt about it that I think the presence of women in boardrooms adds beneficially to the decision-making process. You've got the whole responsible capitalism issue, the managing of stakeholders and accountability to wider stakeholders. And that, interestingly, has led to the appointment of a committee now for a code of governance for private companies. I think that's long overdue in the UK. When you think about some of the bigger private companies, and I'm sure you've got them here, if one of those collapses, the impact on the economy and on the government could be significant. And then the whole question of board evaluations. Following the financial crisis, ICSA did some work on boardroom behaviours, the conclusion of which were 4 uncomfortable truths. Well-run companies can make strategic and sometimes catastrophic misjudgments. Risk management not properly overseen, monitored or reviewed by the board. Often it was just left to the audit committee. It's a board responsibility, is oversight of risk. Remuneration and incentivization not aligned with shareholders' interests. And a failure to inform stakeholders, not just shareholders, stakeholders, sufficiently. That work we did identified 3 areas needing attention. Institutional. Are corporate governance policies and architecture fit for purpose? Has management installed adequate processes and systems? And are directors exhibiting appropriate behaviours? So we had there the institutional, the organisational, and the behavioural. Now, we identified in that work that good practice boardroom behaviour was characterised by those 9 features. So clear understanding of the board's role. The board is there to oversee the management of the business. The board is not there to manage the business. And non-executive directors forget it's a case of noses in, fingers out. They smell the state of the business, they don't finger it. Does this business pass the smell test? Once the non-executive directors start interfering in the management of the business, it's very hard to hold an executive to account. You can't. You've syndicated the responsibility and the liability. Appropriate deployment of knowledge, skills, experience and judgment. So what balance of those have you got on the board? Independent thinking. Assumptions and established orthodoxy need to be questioned. Challenge has to be constructive. If people come onto a board full of suspicion or just trying to show off what a tough guy I am, I'll show these executives up for a load of incompetent idiots. If that's the mentality which a non-executive has, they're asking for trouble, because it will just lead to tension, in fact, conflict on the board. Non-executive directors have to be constructive friends of the management team. Can't overemphasize that. Constructive friends. Yes, and it's knowing how to challenge in a way which doesn't put people's backs up. And it requires a skill, emotional intelligence for a start. Yes, there has to be rigorous debate. The decision-making environment has to be supportive. There needs to be a shared vision. And for the chair, it's vital to close each item of business in a timely way, not let it go round and round and round ad nauseam. That's not the way to do it.
We go to a short break. More when we return.
The Nissan X-Trail with All-Mode Eye Technologies. No matter what the road throws at you, your story starts here.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On Point with Kalila Reynolds and Dennis Chung, dissecting the issues, offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On Point, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life. Delighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
Welcome back to BATV's coverage of the JSE core competencies to excel as a corporate secretary.
We are now going to have a panel discussion, as you will see, and members of the local chapter will be participating, and Mrs. Henry Pottinger is going to be the moderator, and they're going to be talking about things that happen in a very practical way.
How rewarding is your job as a company secretary? Any tips that you can give to budding company secretaries, people who are waiting in the wings to take over your jobs? For me, I enjoy my job. I will not work anywhere else until I retire than with KPMG. As to rewarding, yes, it is rewarding in many respects. I like to see that the people who I work with, they are enabled, they are eloquent, they can answer questions from shareholders, they deal with matters like that with alacrity, and they're very responsive.
It's not glamorous in the sense that if the reward you're looking for is your name in lights, it's clearly the wrong profession for you. So I'm glad that Liz actually said the word enable, because you are an enabler. You're a facilitator. You know, we all understand, certainly after listening to Simon this morning, the importance of corporate governance. Well, all of that falls on your shoulders for you to administer. You pull it together. You keep all the moving pieces going in unison, and you don't, there will be no name in lights, certainly not where I operate for that. So if that's what you, but it can be, obviously it's very rewarding in other ways. Just in terms of tips, I can't stress enough, well, there are two main things I'll say. One is that you have to have a high level of administrative capability, and and obviously you can't do it on your own. So whether it means an internal team or going for external support, you have to be extremely organized, and you have to make sure that you create a lot of systems which allow you to ensure that you comply with all the requirements that you have, which are numerous. Other than that, I can't stress enough the importance of what we keep calling soft skills, but they're not soft at all because they're critical for the role. Definitely, there's a higher level of judgment and diplomacy and management of relationships of people which is involved. We talked a little bit earlier about the relationship the tension between management and the board, which can sometimes exist. And in that case, your role is critical because you really are the diplomat who has to kind of navigate those two relationships and those two different sets of roles within a company. So that I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure that you develop your relationships and that you manage personalities.
I recall some years ago I did a document for my chairman, and I went to him and I'm explaining to him what it is that I'm doing and what it is that he needs. He says to me, "Where I must sign." So it gives you that level of confidence and trust, and to ensure that what you're doing and what you're presenting is correct. And you must build up that whole self-integrity so that, it is not questioned. And I feel that if I have to take something to somebody and they ask me, so where is this or what is that? I do my own self-assessment, because when I do a document, it says where, what, when, why, who, and so forth. So I ask myself those questions so that, you can develop that trust when you're working with somebody.
The job is really very, very interesting. The things that come across your desk are amazing, dynamic, invigorating, challenging. Scope is very, very diverse. Corporate governance has really taken its hold, rather, on Jamaica and within the Caribbean. There is just so much that we have to learn and offer to our clients and to ourselves. Certainly, if someone is looking at this as a profession, I think corporate governance is the way to go. That's just me personally. You'll always assist and help your clients, but there's always a nuance on what has occurred, what should have been done, and how we're going to correct it. And that's what I love about it. And working with PwC and my team, we have just so much to do. You've got to be very structured, lists, and more lists. You have to be very detail-oriented and be able to pick up, and very meticulous, and be able to pick up errors very easily.
In my role as a corporate secretary, the reward for me is I am constantly learning. Every day there is something that I didn't know, or something now that I have to go and know. And it is no 2 days are ever the same. Especially in our company, which we tend to be very entrepreneurial, the ideas come, and as a company secretary and as compliance, I have to research to say, can it be done? Can it not be done? Would this be in breach of anything? I would also advise that the regulators are good allies. From where I sit, I call them a lot because I need their guidance. They are more intimate with the laws and regulations and how they interpret what I am asking them to just bounce things off. So I would ask you to use them up. The company's office, the stock exchange, the Bank of Jamaica, the FSC, they're all very open to questions. No one has said no to me yet. Even if they don't know the answer, they'll research it and get back to us. And our real success lies in having a great team behind us, including KPMG.
Thank you.
And our team in DOMREP, Trinidad and Jamaica, that supports me because we just could not do it alone.
Thanks a lot, ladies. I hope then that those of you in the audience found something informative, instructive, that you can take away from this panel discussion.
Coming up after the break, what companies need to know about the Corporate Governance Index.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
Go for God Family Church.
Today's message is for those of you who thought that Jesus was finished.
Inspiring messages.
I'm here to tell you today that you are excellent. God is excellent.
Empowerment from biblical motivation.
To be glorified means to endow with authority. A woman is a powerful, creative being.
Join Pastor Christopher Morgan and the Go for God team as we go for God.
There's only one recommendation for funding that is ever going to come from me, and that is funding from a bank.
This is the cost to build, and it includes every nail and screw for the building.
Our motto is building communities, building a nation.
Get in the know with the world of real estate with Business Access TV's Home Sweet Home, Sundays at 4:30 p.m.
Welcome back to BATV's coverage of the JSE core competencies to excel as a corporate secretary.
So what is this corporate governance index that we have been talking about? And it really is a tool that has been developed to measure how all entities that are listed, at least surely for us listed on the stock exchange, how it conforms to various established corporate governance principles. Now, typically, the index has a numerical value, right, where the extremes of the values are overall good and poor. And also, it assists in improving the transparency and ultimately FDI for countries. Because research has shown that countries and surely listed companies like using the stock exchanges that have a corporate governance index, especially when there's not very strong regulatory environment for them to operate within, the corporate governance index has actually helped to create greater investment opportunities. And what the research has shown is that countries with the indices have shown significant growth in corporate governance practices. So let's talk a little about the Corporate Governance Index in Jamaica. And the index has been developed by the Jamaica Stock Exchange. As I indicated before, it's the first for the Caribbean region. The process that is being utilized is that it's going to be automatic, so that whether you're listed on the junior market or you're listed on the main market, you are going to be assessed using the index manual. So the purpose of the index, as stated by the Jamaica Stock Exchange, is to first of all periodically measure listed companies' conformance to required corporate governance principles and practices. It also should help to give companies an opportunity to differentiate themselves from other companies, because while all companies are listed and expected to be guided by certain principles and certain rules and certain legislations, you can differentiate yourself by the score that you probably will get based on the fact that you are adhering to a number of these principles. It will also provide a benchmark by which other parties, external parties, locally and internationally now, can gauge companies' adherence to corporate governance practices.
Every year, we have a workshop for the corporate secretary because we realize that they are an integral part of the corporate governance and effectiveness of publicly listed companies, whether it's on the junior exchange or the big board. And we were fortunate in that the head of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of the UK was coming on a visit to Jamaica to meet with the Jamaica Stock Exchange, because we are in the process of representing them in providing training and continuing development for corporate secretaries, persons who want to be corporate secretaries. And as a matter of fact, there is an upcoming fast track that's going to be available for attorneys and chartered accountants who invariably are performing the duties of the chartered secretary, and what it will allow them to do is to have the formal chartered secretary designation. So we felt that this was very important to continue to lift the profile of the chartered secretary and their role in listed companies.
I thought the conference was excellent, actually. The seminar was excellent. It touched on very important aspects that are critical for the development of our businesses within Jamaica and internationally, and for our companies, concentrating on corporate governance and the amendments that have just occurred in the Companies Act and why corporate governance is so important. So I encourage everyone to be at the next seminar.
But governance is here to stay. There's no doubt about that. And it's the proportionate application of governance principles which is so important in all types of organisation. But in order to be able to do that, every organisation needs to be clear about its organisational purpose. Then the board, the directors, need to be clear about the key values by which that purpose is going to be delivered. Only then can you devise a governance framework for your particular type of organisation. Every organisation, however big, however small, needs to do that.
Who does corporate governance benefit again?
Obviously, it benefits the companies themselves, it benefits their shareholders as the owners, or if it's an unincorporated body, the members. But it also benefits wider society. I think that's the important point. Their employees, those with whom they do business, and ultimately it benefits the government, because if an enterprise fails and is employing people and it fails because of poor governance practices, the ultimate responsibility financially was going to fall on the government, for example in social security payouts for unemployed people. I think also if companies fail because of poor governance, it doesn't reflect well on the country. And for a country that is trying to entice inward investment, if the governance framework isn't up to snuff, as we say, then that could have a potentially negative effect. So good governance, it just makes sense. There's plenty of anecdotal evidence too that good governance enhances reputation. It also, for organisations, particularly commercial ones, reduces the cost of capital. It just makes sense.
That's it from us here at the JSC Core Competence is to excel as a corporate secretary. I've been your host, Andrew Laidley, and thanks for tuning in to Business Access TV. Serious about business. Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On Point with Kalila Reynolds and Dennis Chung. Dissecting the issues, offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On Point, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
As the end of the year draws nigh and the celebrations begin, let us add some magic to the festivities with our BATV Christmas mix. Why settle for blah when you can have fa-la-la-la-la? 60 advertising spots, 10 crawl spots. This $1.6 million package is all yours for only $45,000. Don't wait. Contact our sales team today and take advantage of this incredible offer. Our gift to you. BATV Christmas Mix. Offer valid until December 31, 2018.
I'm Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world, and you're watching Business Access.
Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Researchers at the Mona School of Business and Management are warning that Jamaica must increase its exports in order to improve its rank on the Global Competitiveness Report. Jamaica ranks 79th of 140 countries on this year's report, falling 9 places behind last year's ranking. The Mona School of Business and Management hosted a public forum on the implications of the country's ranking yesterday. Jamila Maitland was there.
After being named the highest rated country in the Caribbean by the World Economic Forum last year, Jamaica has fallen from its 70th position to now placing 79th. But Director of the Professional Services Unit at the Mona School of Business and Management, Dr. William Lawrence, says a major cause for this is the country's market size, which is arguably too small. He says smaller countries like Trinidad and Tobago have a much larger market size than Jamaica because they export more, ranking them higher in the WEF report.
Less than 15% of manufacturing output is export. The rest is local. The market size issue, the need to export, has been a perpetual call by the World Economic Forum. We've got to ensure that we provide policies, incentives, strategies to rev export up.
Dr. Lawrence warned that the country needs to increase export to become more competitive. He suggests diversifying the exports.
And if you look at good areas with good potential, like agro-industry, where we can use local materials, add value, produce not just food and beverage, produce cosmetics, produce household chemicals, produce a range of things. The sky is the limit, so certainly we can do more.
The director, who's been monitoring the country's competitiveness, also says there's a gap between business dynamism and innovation capabilities. He says greater use for the Jamaica Stock Exchange will improve this.
Data shows that Jamaica businesses over-rely on debt capital for financing, while we have a very vibrant stock market that's well ranked. We've got to make sure that somewhere in the mix, more companies become listed on the stock exchange, access equity capital, optimize the capital structure to drive innovation to get the growth we need in exports.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
IMF Mission Chief to Jamaica, Dr. Uma Ramakrishnan, says the IMF is not concerned about the wide swings in the value of the Jamaican dollar. After trading for a record high of nearly $138 to $1 US, the local currency started to appreciate again in August, selling today for an average $127.42. The IMF Mission Chief to Jamaica says the movement is driven by market factors. Sashana Small reports.
Many have been concerned about the unpredictability of the Jamaican dollar, but the IMF Mission Chief to Jamaica, Dr. Uma Ramakrishnan, is seeking to alleviate those concerns.
Concern would be if there are factors that are driving these movements that are beyond market factors. So as long as the drivers of these are market forces, and that is the supply and the demand, and the market is figuring out that this is the right price for the exchange rate, I don't see why there's a need for concerns.
Dr. Ramakrishnan says the current movement of the dollar is a normal part of the floating exchange rate regime.
A flexible exchange rate implies a certain level of volatility. It goes up and it goes down. So, from our standpoint, we were not worried when it was at 137, and we are not worried that it is at 121. It was 137, and then it's now at 127. These are movements that's part of the flexible exchange rate regime. So it is not a source of great concern for us at this point.
However, she acknowledges that this movement may have implications for businesses and consumers, but says as Jamaica's foreign exchange market develops further, the swings will be less dramatic.
The implications it has for merchants and what it does for businesses, that is a fair point, and I think the volatility that businesses face, I think what that calls for is development of the FX market further. This is still what I would call, this is still a sort of baby market, and things are still developing. It still needs to grow. And as the market matures and as the market players understand and, everybody understands the nature of the business, I think the sort of wide swings that we are seeing are likely to be more toned down.
And she says that the IMF is working with the central bank to develop the markets.
If a forward market or a hedging market, that's something that needs to be considered as we go forward, so that the market development aspects are not yet complete. And developing the FX market, those would be some of the next steps going forward. So if we have some of those market development angles built up, I think those would be the next logical steps for us to look at, and we are working with the central bank on those elements also.
For BATV News, I'm Shoshana Small.
Meanwhile, the IMF mission chief says the country's historic low unemployment rate is not translating into economic growth because the jobs that are available aren't adding much value to the economy. Here's more.
The latest unemployment figures released by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin show that unemployment rate is now just 8.4%. This is a 3% decrease when compared to July last year. Youth unemployment is also down to approximately 22%. However, the IMF latest review shows that although the country's macroeconomy is stable, growth remains low. But since more people are working, why isn't the country experiencing more economic growth?
So the employment numbers reflect that businesses are growing and that new people are being employed, but it also reflects that the lower growth number reflects that the employment is happening in the lower value-add sector.
One such sector is the BPO industry, which continues to grow in Jamaica. But Dr. Umar Ramakrishnan says these jobs do not contribute much to economic growth.
One of the reasons why the higher employment numbers are not yet translating into higher growth numbers is because the types of employment that are being generated are on the lower value-add sectors. For example, the BPO sector is a very high growth sector. It is a very high potential growth sector. But right now, the call centers, the value add that is coming from the BPO sector is the labor. There is no additional, not a whole lot of capital or other productive activity that is going on there. So in terms of value add for the growth, it is small.
She points out that if BPOs start providing higher value services, then they will contribute more to the country's economic growth.
If the same BPO sector were to grow in the value chain by providing higher value-add services, you're going to see that the contribution from the BPO sector to growth is going to be much higher. So this is an evolutionary. This is not going to happen overnight. This takes time. So this is going to evolve. I'm confident that the BPO sector, for example, will evolve in the value chain and the value add would get bigger.
For BATV News, I'm Shoshana Small.
And when we come back, the latest stock market news, including the details of a prospectus for a junior market listing from Epley. This and more after the break.
Home is where all the sweetness, silliness, and beauty of life happens. Discover your style and express yourself with furniture from the Ashley Furniture Home Store. Visit any of our 2 locations at Ligony Kingston or Fairview Montego Bay. Find the most exquisite range of furniture in varying styles to suit your needs. So tell your story with elegant and affordable lounge, bedroom, dining pieces, and more from the Ashley Furniture Home Store. Here at Ashley, this is home.
Welcome back. Epley says they're looking to raise $150 million from 66.5 million shares to be made available to the public. The investment company says they intend to list the 7.5% fixed rate preference shares on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Applications will open next Wednesday. Here's more.
Invitations for the 7.5% preference shares will open at 9 a.m. on November 11 and close 4 p.m. a week later on November 21. The shares are being offered at $6 each and are redeemable in 2024. Epley says it intends to apply to the JSE to list the 2024 preference shares on the junior market. However, the company notes that it doesn't guarantee that the 2024 preference shares will be listed. They say this depends on subscription of not less than 25 million preference shares by the closing date, the discretion of the JSE, as well as the criteria for admission set out in the JSE rules. The investment company notes that the subscriptions are only for Jamaica. As such, no invitation to persons outside of Jamaica to subscribe for any of the 2024 preference shares will be made. Epley's board says they intend to use the proceeds of the offer to fund credit facilities and to pay the expenses of the invitation, which the directors believe will not exceed $15 million. For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
NCB Capital Markets is advising that the allotment for Facey Group's offer of Seprod ordinary shares has been delayed. In a statement on the JSE's website today, the broker says it's in the process of reconciling the applications and verifying payments. It's requested approval to provide the basis of allotment on Monday, November 12. NCB Capital Markets says their preliminary numbers indicate that they've received 3,799 applications. They say due to the large number of subscribers for the offer, the process is taking longer than anticipated. The broker is apologizing for the delay and asking for understanding as they work to complete processing of the applications for subscription. Barita Investments saw an 84% improvement in net profits and overall increase in its main income earners for the 12-month period which ended September. The results were published in the company's unaudited results. Here's more.
Barita Investments reports an improvement in net profit of 84.2% for the 12 months which ended September 2018. That figure amounted to $374 million. Significant gains were made in most of the company's key revenue drivers: fee and commission income, foreign exchange gains, and dividend income. Fee and commission income, which continues to benefit from growth in the company's managed funds, experienced a 10.8% increase, amounting to $527 million. The group realized an increase in foreign exchange trading and translation gains. This accounted for the $142 million increase in the segment, which recorded almost $188 million for the 12-month period. Of this amount, $61.7 million came from foreign exchange. Meanwhile, net interest income increased by almost 48%, amounting to $424.4 million. For the year, the group incurred additional staff and administrative expenses. However, due to asset impairment charges of $100 million from the prior year being realized, there was a decrease in total expenses. This category went down by almost 2%, ending the year at $764.8 million. The company says as they move through the current year, they hope that the Jamaican economy will continue to be viable for investors. They are also looking to position themselves to exploit as many opportunities as possible in order to satisfy all stakeholders. For BATV News, I'm Javon Keys.
Jamaican scientist Dr. Henry Lowe's FlavorCure Biotech has secured a 20% interest by Canadian biotech company Atlas Biotechnologies. Atlas will now hold one seat on FlavorCure's initial 7-member board of directors. The deal sees Atlas investing $5.75 million into FlavorCure for more intensive research into the use of cannabis for medicinal and pharmaceutical treatment for cancer. In a statement, Dr. Lowe says his company is looking forward to collaborating with Atlas on their genetics program and other drug research programs in the field. Meanwhile, Atlas CEO Sheldon Kroom says the investment is in line with its goal to be a global leader in the development of proven pharmaceutical drugs derived from cannabis for medicinal use. Canada recently legalized recreational cannabis use. The industry is reportedly worth up to $9 billion. And when we come back, we'll have regional and international news.
Welcome to The Business Year. The Business Year is a global media group specializing in economic news and business intelligence. We bring our readers first-hand insights from over 35 countries. Each of our country-centered publications features over 150 face-to-face interviews with local leaders in business and policy. We are The Business Year.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On point with Kalila Reynolds and Dennis Chung. Dissecting the issues, offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On Point, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show and Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV. Serious about business.
Having a corporate event, seminar, awards show, conference, product launch, workshop or expo? Business Access TV is here to showcase your event. Contact our sales department at 908-0919, 906-6357 or 908-2775 for more information. Business Access TV. Serious about business. Cameo brings the creative industries to life. Delighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo. Only on Business Access TV.
This is Weekend Business Report. Economic windfall.
Unsecured loans.
Alleged corruption.
Follows the closure. If they made this investment.
Brokers
strive to increase revenues.
He sought some answers.
Financial meltdown.
Here are the week's final. Here's Garth. News Roundup.
Camille, it's back to you.
That's Weekend Business Report with me, Keneal Gale. Saturdays and Sundays.
We're taking you beyond our shores, across the region and around the world. Every week, BATV gives you in-depth reporting on the major stories that gripped headlines in the Caribbean and on the international scene. Join us Sundays for This Week Abroad. Business Access TV, serious about business at home and abroad.
It's season 12 and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access. Business Access. Business Access. Business Access TV.
serious about business.
Caring Hands Season 3 continues to effect change in a changing environment.
Many of us were raised by grandmothers, right? So, I mean, we know the wisdom that these people have.
Going beyond business.
The little leaders of today are our leaders of tomorrow. And with the proper education, we'll have very good leadership coming from that.
That's Season 3 of Caring Hands, creating change and shaping lives, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
The Good Life, your trusted source for useful health and wellness information, lifestyle tips for the mind, body, and soul. Tune in Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Welcome back. It's time now for regional and international news. In response to growing public outcry over rising electricity bills, the Prime Minister of the Bahamas has announced that the government intends to raise the VAT exemption ceiling from $200 to $300 for 6 months, starting in December. Here's more from our news.
This recent temporary spike in fuel surcharge has unfortunately put a number of the qualifying customers over the 200 threshold. Thus, I today advise the Honorable House that the government will be moving an amendment to the law to allow for a temporary increase in the VAT exempt ceiling from $200 per month to $300 per month through the end of the fiscal year, that being June 2019.
According to Minnis, the policy will come into effect in December and will be reflected in the January 2019 billing period. He added that any decision to extend the VAT exemption beyond the 2018-2019 fiscal year will be based on the state of the country's electricity supply. The BPL chairman has blamed higher fuel prices on increased global oil prices and an increased dependence on the Blue Hills power plant following recent fires that damaged 2 of the Clifton Power Station's largest engines. The Blue Hills power station utilizes the more expensive diesel oil, while Clifton uses the cheaper heavy fuel oil or Bunker C. While echoing the explanation provided by the BPL's representatives, Minnis says he has instructed the minister responsible to compile a report.
I requested the minister responsible for BPL and the BPL team to review and report back to Cabinet on the full range of options open to the government to address this temporary spike in electricity bills, and even as we execute the longer-term strategy to reduce energy costs in the Bahamas.
Compounding the matter, the fuel surcharge, which takes into account the fluctuating cost of fuel, has increased from 14.75 cents per kilowatt hour in February to 19.15 cents per kilowatt hour in September. BPL officials have suggested that consumers reduce their energy intake to offset the increased costs. And while Minnis acknowledged the plight of many poor Bahamians, he says there are some who are seeking to use the situation to cause trouble.
This situation is a legitimate issue for every Bahamian. However, there are a small few who are seeking to make political mischief out of a serious situation, who know full well the set of circumstances that have built up over several decades and have led us to this point.
The Port of Spain City Corporation in Trinidad and Tobago has purchased an early flood warning system to ensure quicker alerts. Just last month, the country experienced 1 month's rain in just 2 days, causing severe flooding which affected 80% of the island. Here's more.
At a water symposium held in collaboration with the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Mayor Joel Martinez said while plans are being rolled out to address flooding issues within the capital city, being prepared is important.
The objective of it is to warn people that by looking at the river levels and by the amount of rainfall, and that will sound us an alarm system that will allow people to be much more aware beforehand.
The mayor compared other countries who use the system.
the last tsunami that took place, it gave people just about 15 minutes, I believe, right, to get out of Indonesia, you know what I mean, of that area. So warning is a form of information that allows the citizen to be aware that something is happening, the levels are increasing, and it allows us to be able to act quickly.
Pakistan is seeing an improved outlook in some economic areas. However, they're engaged in talks with the IMF for their 22nd bailout package worth some $12 billion. Here's more.
It's often called the lender of the last resort, but Pakistan never seems to get enough of the International Monetary Fund. The government is negotiating its 22nd IMF bailout package since 1950, even as the finance minister says the balance of payments crisis is over, thanks to some generosity from its allies.
$12 billion I told you we needed $12 billion. We have received $6 billion from Saudi Arabia, and we expect support from China as well. So the immediate balance of payments crisis that Pakistan was facing is now over.
Saudi Arabia has given $3 billion in cash to help shore up Pakistan's foreign currency reserves. It's providing a further $3 billion loan in the form of deferred oil payments, and the government expects similar support from China and the United Arab Emirates. Experts say the commitments from other countries should help Pakistan secure more lenient terms from the IMF. They expect the government to seek a loan for $12 billion at an interest rate of 2%. In response, the lender will likely want to see tax collection rise. The government will have to share its plans to privatize loss-making public sector entities, and the central bank will have to stop intervening in currency markets and let the Pakistani rupee depreciate against other currencies. That should breathe life into stagnating exports.
We are hoping that we will be exporting more value-added textiles. Then basically we have agricultural products, we have sports goods, we have surgical equipment which we export from Pakistan, leather goods. Pakistan needs to export, so we want to sort of get some help in pushing our exports.
But critics say tax evasion and poor governance lie at the heart of Pakistan's economic troubles. And unless Khan's government can get people and businesses to pay their fair share, this 22nd trip to the IMF may not be its last. Mubin Nasir, TRT World.
The Sudan-Chad border is a major trade route for merchants between the two states. There is, however, continued tension due to the illegal smuggling of millions of dollars of goods across the border. Here's more.
Abdullah Hamid has been in the trade business in West Darfur for more than 20 years. He says his business has expanded over the past few years, as he no longer sells his goods to Sudanese traders only.
We take our Sudanese products to sell. I sell some of the things to Chadian traders who cross the border. They bring them back to their country.
Hundreds of traders in Sudan's West Darfur buy and sell goods across the Sudan-Chad border. For many, it's a way to keep their businesses alive. But the border isn't always secure. Abubakar Ahmed remembers the times when violence plagued the border, affecting his business.
Sometimes clashes would happen along the border, and as traders, we had fears we had to close the shops. It's usually calm, but there has been some fighting before.
Those border tensions rose when the Darfur conflict began in 2003. In 2006, Chad accused Sudan of backing a failed rebel attack on the Chadian capital in N'Djamena. Khartoum returned the accusation in 2008 when Darfur rebels attacked the Sudanese capital. Insecurity isn't the only issue causing tension at the joint border. The border has been shut down several times over the past decade due to the smuggling of weapons, cars, and other goods across the two countries. With a history of smuggling and movement of armed groups between the 750-kilometer border between Sudan and Chad, securing it is vital for both countries. A special joint deployment force has been increased this year, but while that has reduced the number of armed groups, the smuggling continues. That's because those joint forces, established in 2010, are not present along the whole border. With goods worth millions of dollars being smuggled annually, local authorities in West Darfur say securing the border is a priority.
We have the joint forces established through directives from the presidents of the two countries to protect trade. There is an active trade between our country and Chad. We want benefits for citizens of both countries, so securing the border ensures trade continues in the right way.
Abdullah says he doesn't know if the Chadian traders who buy from him take the goods back to their country legally, but he hopes they continue to trade with him regardless, so that his business continues to thrive. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Junaina, West Darfur.
Stay with us. Talking Stocks comes up next.
You see island I wear, them are the best thing in the island I swear. Everywhere in the island I hear. Everybody with a eye problem, them a talk about the place name island I wear. Them a say, island I wear. Them a say, island I wear. Everybody with a eye problem, them a talk about island I wear.
Island Eyewear offers free eye testing every day, all day, at all locations island-wide. Conditions apply.
Island I wear. Everybody with a eye problem, them a talk about island I wear.
Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 48 stocks traded today, of which 28 advanced, 15 declined, and 5 traded firm. The main JSE index advanced by 5,591 points to close at over 355,000 points. The junior index declined by 18 points to close at 3,201. Over 3.2 million units traded today, valued at some $58 million on the Jamaican dollar market, while on the US dollar market, more than 12,000 units traded, valued at over $2,000 US. Lasco Financial Services, with over 800,000 units trading, accounted for 26% of market volume. SSL Venture Capital, with over 317,000 units trading, was second, and NCB Financial Group, with a little over 300,000 units trading, was third, accounting for 9% of market volume. The main advancers were Pulse Investments, up $1.07 to close at $4, followed by Fosrich, Mayberry Investments, up 88 cents to close at $10.88, and Everything Fresh, up 15 cents to close at $1.95. The main decliners were Blue Power Group, down 50 cents to close at $5.50, followed by Radio Jamaica, down by 7 cents to close at 88 cents, and Lasco Manufacturing, down 17 cents to close at $3.23. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar made ground on the US dollar, but lost against the Canadian and British pound today. The US dollar ended the day trading for $127.42, losing 8 cents to the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian dollar ended the day selling for $97.48 on average, gaining $1.46 on the Jamaican, while the British pound gained $2.22 to the Jamaican dollar, ending the day selling at $167.27. And that's the news. But before we go, a recap of our top story. Researchers at the Mona School of Business and Management are warning that Jamaica must increase its exports in order to improve its rank on the Global Competitiveness Report. Thanks for watching. For more content, visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Pleasant viewing.
I'm Adam Stewart. This is Business Access TV, serious about business.
On Point is brought to you by Growth Tech Limited.
Good evening and welcome to On Point. I'm your host, Kalila Reynolds.
And I'm Dennis Chung.
Well, Dennis, if you look around, you see Kingston skyline is changing. One of the points Prime Minister Andrew Holness made recently at the opening of one of these new high-rises going up. It's happening pretty rapidly right before our eyes.
I'm very excited. I never thought that I would live to see this sort of development happening.
So how many condos you buy already?
Well,
of course, I'm just teasing you. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about that and all the problems that comes with the progress as well.
And later on in the program, we'll be hearing about Red Stripe's success with using locally grown cassava in the world-famous beer.
Yes, but first, let's take a look back at some of the top business stories this week.
At number 5, a day after one of the most tumultuous midterm elections in recent memory, investors emerged in a buying mood, pushing both the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 index up more than 2%. Once the votes were tallied, Democrats retook the House of Representatives, while Republicans strengthened their hold on the Senate. Wall Street seemed to take to a Congress split between parties, with most stocks on U.S. exchanges rallying the day after Election Day. The post-election rally was strongest in tech, finance, and even recently listed cannabis stocks. At number 4, citizens of Grenada and Antigua and Barbuda voted this week to keep the U.S. Privy Council as their country's final court of appeal, overwhelmingly rejecting the Caribbean Court of Justice (CCJ) as its replacement. While a 2/3 majority of voters was needed to approve the move, not even a simple majority was obtained in either country. In Grenada, where the failed referendum was the second in as many years, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell expressed disappointment and said it was his final time trying to get the island to vote in favor of the Trinidad-based CCJ. Meanwhile, Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown said the opposition's propaganda led to the failure of the referendum in his country. At number 3, Dr. Henry Lowe's US-based biotech lab FlavorCure has received an investment from Canadian biotech company Atlas Biotechnologies. The $5.75 million investment is to further the research and development of pharmaceutical drugs derived from cannabis. In a statement, FlavorCure says the investment is part of Atlas's strategic goal to be a leader in the development of new cannabis genetics and cannabis products for medicinal use. This comes on the heels of Canada's recent legalization of the adult use of cannabis that now allows for recreational use. At number 2, Petrojam is denying reports that a US company that filed for bankruptcy this week owes it $3 million. The company is Aegean Marine Petroleum Network, which is one of the world's largest traders in shipping fuel. Aegean filed for bankruptcy protection in the US on Tuesday. Speaking in Parliament that same day, opposition spokesman on energy Philip Paulwell claimed that the company owed Petrojam for fuel purchases which it then supplies to ships at ports in Kingston and Ocho Rios. But in a statement on Wednesday, Petrojam said all amounts owing prior to November 4 have been fully settled. There is still a $370,000 bill for a shipment last Sunday, but Petrojam says they're in dialogue with Aegean and expect this amount to be paid in full. And your top business story this week comes out of the IMF's latest mission review. The IMF mission chief to Jamaica, Dr. Uma Ramakrishnan, says the private sector has not been taking advantage of the reforms happening in the Jamaican economy. The IMF's 4th review on the Jamaica Standby Arrangement pointed out that although the country's macroeconomy is stable, growth is low. Dr. Ramakrishnan says that's partly because the private sector has been slow to change its business model from its heavy dependence on government paper.
And when we come back, progress brings problems, challenges and opportunities with Kingston's rapid development. Stay with us.
Growth Tech is making connectivity like oxygen. Wherever you see the Growth Tech free Wi-Fi, feel free to connect. Watch, connect, and go, allowing you to chat, check, browse, and email securely. So when you're on the go and need to connect with friends, family, or a team member, or just stay updated, look for Growth Tech's free Wi-Fi. Growth Tech, making connectivity like oxygen.
Welcome to The Business Year. The Business Year is a global media group specializing in economic news and business intelligence. We bring our readers first-hand insights from over 35 countries. Each of our country-centred publications features over 150 face-to-face interviews with local leaders in business and policy. We are the Business Year.
Welcome back to On Point. Well, the face of Kingston is changing. That declaration coming from Prime Minister Andrew Holness as he opened the brand new 10-story high-rise apartment complex in Kingston recently.
But there are concerns that the city's infrastructure is not keeping pace with the development that's happening. Here's more on that.
The Prime Minister says the billion-dollar investment is part of the city's changing skyline. At 10 stories high, 20 Southwest is the tallest residential complex in Kingston. But Mr. Holness says they're now receiving requests for 20-story high-rises. Mr. Holness says the government has received several requests for residential and commercial construction for Kingston at the St. Andrew. He says they're working to reduce lengthy approval times, which affects project timelines.
So this got approval for 10 stories. If you just look out across the road, you will see one that is coming up. There are requests now for 20-story buildings. There are requests for far more comprehensive development, residential and commercial developments together of a grander scale. So within short order, the face of Kingston could change fundamentally.
He says the ultimate goal is overall improved infrastructure for Kingston.
What really needs to happen is a rethink. One, of the infrastructure, meaning we have to have a better road system, a better telecommunication system, a better water and sewage system, and a better public transportation system. Now, once we put in place that infrastructure, then it becomes possible to get the maximum and best use of the land within the boundaries of Kingston.
Prime Minister Holness is applauding businessman Arthur Van Stroley, owner of the building, and the project managers for its modern, environmentally friendly, safe design. He says the construction of 20 South fits seamlessly into the government's plan for increased infrastructural development for Kingston.
We are facilitating this process. We are making sure that the approvals process is seamless and speedy. But we are also ensuring, with the new Building Act, that these buildings are safe, that these buildings are built and that they adhere to the highest standards, because we always have to pay attention to the area in which we live. We are hurricane prone, we are close to fault lines, and natural disasters happen quite, unsuspectingly by surprise, so we have to be prepared. And I know that this building has met all the building requirements. It's a safe building.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
We're joined now by President of the Jamaica Institute of Architects, Christopher Liu, as well as the lovely Dr. Carol Archer, radiant in purple. She is Associate Professor of Urban and Regional Planning at UTEC. Welcome to On Point. Thanks for having us.
Welcome. Carol, let me start with you. We've been talking about the development of Kingston, and in particular downtown Kingston, for a while. Why haven't we been able to get things going? It seems like something is happening now, though, on the waterfront, eh?
Well, the thing is about the city planning process, which we have to appreciate. It's not an overnight. City planning is a process. You have the vision, you have the buy-in, you have the participation of the city, the residents of the city, you have support, financial support, private sector, government. Most of the cities, the truth is that most of the cities that you're seeing now, whether it's Miami, New York, Dubai, they did not appear overnight. The development process, the thought, the design, in most cases will take 20, 30 years. The development that you're seeing in places like downtown Brooklyn. When I was a graduate student in city planning, we were studying, we were working, we were collecting data, we were making proposals. It is now, with the necessary investment in place and the policies and legislations being passed and enacted, that the city is able to be developed. So I'm very cautious when I hear policymakers act as if it's something that's going to happen overnight. The city planning process is not an overnight activity. Now, we have been talking about the redevelopment of downtown from as far back as, say, 1968, when we have the establishment of UDC. Of course, there's issue of finance. Where do we get it? How do we go about it? But then there's also the question of who is responsible? Is it the full responsibility of the KSAC, UDC? How do you get the various agencies
and of course
to
the private
coordinate?
sector.
And the private sector. How do you coordinate that? Now, we also have the piece of legislation that would guide how the city land use is developed over time. Now, the last one that was enacted was in 1968, and it took us from 1968, there have been several discussions about what to put into. Just recently, as recent as
April 19th.
2017. I worked on it. Myself and other planning colleagues through NEPA worked on it, and it had gone through several iterations. It's not the best document at this point because some of the information there is outdated in terms of the data. But with the little that we have, the best that we could do.
This is what we're having.
Right, and so proposals were made. Now, the good thing about it is that in some instance, we were able to get the full participation of residents of some communities. So, for example, Eastwood Park Gardens, we would have had constant consultation. Not in every case we were able to include some of the suggestions by the residents of, say, Eastwood Park Gardens or Seymour Lands, but we had that consultation. Downtown, I don't believe that it was as extensive as in those other communities. But what I know, when I was involved in the process, what I know happened was that we worked with the KSAC and the UDC. And we said, well, I was working through with NEPA at the time, and we said, let us look at what UDC has planned, let us look at what KSAC would like to see, and let us put that together. And we now have the development order for Kingston and St. Andrew. But this is not the be-all or end-all. What this does is to give the zoning in particular areas. So one of the considerations for downtown, where the zoning is concerned, we look at issues of density. We said, look, given where downtown Kingston is, given the growth that and this is based on discussions with UDC and KSAC at the time, downtown, we should ensure that we have high-density development because the infrastructure, the type of development that is envisioned. We knew about the proposal for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We had the proposal for the Grace Kennedy building. And of course, Digicel had just been developed. So there was that general vision for downtown. And so in the land use plan, that was included.
Let's take a pin there and get Christopher in. So now this seems like it's finally happening.
Not really.
Everywhere.
Not really. This document that Carol refers to is the Kingston and St. Andrew and the Pedro Case Provisional Development Order 2017, April 19, 2017. This is a land use map for downtown. This document is provisional. It is not promulgated, correct, Carol?
Yes, it has not been made into law.
There is a density map, which I had sent you a copy of.
Well, let me ask the question,
yes.
right? Because everywhere you look around the city, you see construction going on. So something is finally happening. Something, as the Prime Minister said, the skyline is changing. Christopher, what are the issues you see that accompany that rapid development that we see going on right now in terms of construction and all these buildings going up?
This discussion has been going on for about 2 weeks now since the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned his desire to see a skyline akin to another city in South Florida. The issue, besides zoning and density, because he was speaking specifically at the opening
of
a residential building. So you're dealing with densities, habitable rooms per hectare. And based upon where sewage is, municipal sewage, you get higher densities, and there are corridors of density. It's unfortunate that no one from NEPA is here, or from the fire brigade. My concerns, Carol's are concerns that she articulated in an article in the Gleaner, which had a misleading headline. But if you read the body of the article, there are some very substantive issues she's raising about affordability and people investing in housing solutions that are not where they're going to live, but to be Airbnbs. Let's bell the cat. All right, so that is a reality that developers are marketing to a target group who are not necessarily going to be owner-occupiers. So this young professional, who is a young professional? What does a young professional couple or co-joined in terms of to get a mortgage have to earn per month to be able to access a $200,000 US unit? Because a lot of these developments are being quoted in hard currency. So the concerns about...
Hard currency meaning US dollar?
Yes. Or any other currency you might bring. Euros, I don't know, yuan. The point of it is though, infrastructure, road network, traffic impact assessments. When you have apartment buildings, the assumption is they drive. This pedestrian-friendly city where you live near where you work, you bicycle to work, you have bicycle racks.
That is not Kingston. That is
no, the assumption everybody's driving.
Vision for the city.
So you have the cars, and cars are taking over Jamaica.
But they are working on the road network.
No. You see, that is back to the holistic thing of development. We have a transportation policy, we have an energy policy, and cars consume fuel. Fuel is a foreign exchange guzzler. Why is it that the public transportation system is not properly organized and robots are not removed from the system to allow the public transportation system to get the head count to be efficient? That only people who take public transportation because they might not, are students and the senior citizens because they are getting a concession, while the, what you call informal sector is not charging them or giving them a concession. That is a problem because traffic management, we have gotten loans from the IDB. Dennis can tell you from his tenure somewhere else, that we get loans from the IDB to do traffic management studies, but we are studying a problem and not dealing with the disease. All we are doing is mitigating when we need to deal with the root cause of what is causing this pileup of traffic. If you stand any major intersection and do a traffic count, how many of those are robots? How many are one person in a car?
Private vehicles.
And then we talk about, we haven't even addressed the issue of where is affordable housing that the ordinary citizen, there's a person called the ordinary citizen who is complaining that they cannot access a home from NHT. Where are the private sector solutions? They're out in Old Harbour, Clarendon and St. Catherine. They are driving motor vehicle acquisition because you need to get to your work and school with your children, and they're also destroying family life. There's a whole heap of things.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the transportation in particular, I think, is a bug, but I don't think the will is there and has ever been there.
It is no, but no, let me tell you something. See it here. This is a JUTC card. I take the bus. So I personally can observe that if JUTC was allowed to operate with a full fleet, properly serviced, it could work.
I know that. I know that. Yes. So Christopher, I agree with you on the transportation thing. I don't think that the governments have shown that they have a will to address the transportation.
It is a bell in the cat situation.
Right, yeah. So my question for you, Carol, is if all of this thing is happening without proper consultation and planning, we're heading for chaos.
Quite likely, yes. Because one of the things you have to take into consideration is, well, coordinated effort. So you're talking about high-rise, 20-story, 15-story. It requires the data from, say, Civil Aviation Authority. The data that we're using now that informed the location of the Scotia Centre and others, outdated information, right? So we need to get the most current data, right? Where with the assistance of Civil Aviation Authority. And based on that analysis, we can be better able to determine the most ideal location, yes? That's one. Two, one of the things that, in terms of consideration, current discourse in planning, for a city to ensure the sustainability of the city. Because if you recall, in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, not only Kingston, but most major metropolitan area went through a period of decline. Why? Because they took the people outside of the city. They took a particular group of people outside of the city. Heavy reliance on private motor vehicles. That's what caused the demise of cities. Now, if we're going to sustain cities, we need to ensure that as we are developing, we develop mixed income. So it's not just one group of persons. My article in the Gleaner made reference to luxury high-rise because I heard the Prime Minister making reference that, no, you cannot sustain a city when you're focusing primarily on luxury high-rise, when there is a serious demand for at least 20,000 affordable housing units per year. Yes? So the kind of development that you would want to encourage, particularly downtown, mixed income. So you bring a mix of persons of different socioeconomic status in the city. That's why New York City is so, vibrant. You have persons from all walks of London, Paris. Yes, you are able to, because regardless of your economic status, you have a section of the city that you can, right? You need to be able to focus on public transportation. Yes?
But when it comes to your point about high-rises and the need for mixed income housing, you can have mixed income in high-rises. They don't all have to be luxury.
They don't all. But the problem, again, that it has to be mixed income, because if we learned our lessons, not just from the US, but from the UK, those Le Corbusier type development, Chris, where you concentrate particularly low-income individuals in public housing, most of them are no longer in existence. The Taylor houses of Chicago and so Cabrini Green, they have all been, well, of course, because you have serious maintenance issue to maintain an elevator in an apartment building. It's serious maintenance issue. But if you have the right mix of
we don't have the strata laws being enforced.
Exactly, something right to ensure that we are able to collect the maintenance and use the maintenance. So all of those issues, because we have seen them, let us address them, and then we move forward. Because as I pointed out earlier, these cities were not built in a day.
With all of this that Carl just spoke about, we obviously can't develop a city without proper legislation and that sort of thing, because the Strata Act don't seem to be working.
Well, there's Airbnb legislation.
Yeah, well, I understand why people go Airbnb, because for the rent board to be telling you how you must rent and how much you must charge and all of that, people are just going to lock up their places or do something else with it. But the other thing is, how do we develop a city with the inner city communities we have, and then how do we deal with the inner city communities if we're not improving people's income levels? And that is a serious conflict.
I do not know what the statistics show from Statin regarding the actual population of people who live in the 10 square miles, correct, of what is geographically referred to as downtown or Kingston. But if you look at the communities there, Southside, Tel Aviv, Fletcher's Land, Wildman Street section, there by North Street, where you have Casey and St. George's, it is very depressing to see the level of housing stock that people, but it's almost a misnomer to call it housing. Solutions then, somewhere they are living, they are existing in a shelter situation. As you know, some years ago, in 1992, KRC, Kingston Restoration Company, the brainchild of the late Maurice Facey and architect Vade McMorris, they tried to bring back downtown through a private sector initiative. They actually had a downtown plan.
Yes.
It was financed on a grant from USAID. That was called Vision 2020. That preceded Vision 2030, but it never really happened. There were some pilot projects there were to do, and really, if you look at it, when the then Prime Minister, Honorable Percival Patterson, wanted to reactivate regeneration of downtown, whichever word you want to use, he referenced that document and gave PIOJ the task in about 2000. I think UDC came in
mix. City renewal.
And as you know, I think KRC had a pilot program which never went anywhere to do infill housing on Hanover Street, where the existing residents had moved people. They would not dislocate people. People who lived on Hanover Street, they do their survey, land tenure, who owned the land, etc. Because one of the things about downtown, there's lots of land that the owner seems to be missing. Maybe they're not in Jamaica, they're deceased, and the whole, dead left situation has not been addressed. So you have people just living there, and maybe they just allow them to live there because they are providing security for the property. But there are lots of vacant, derelict structures in Kingston, in the core of the city, which are, the shell is there, and people have built something as a shelter within so you don't really see it from the street, but there are people living on Hanover Street. I think Hanover Street is probably one of the most depressing streets. Maybe I shouldn't say, I think people on Hanover Street will be objecting to it, but I think they will agree on other sections in that section going east from Hanover Street. But Matthews Lane is not pretty either. And there have been major fires downtown, as you know, in these
But I think, though, Chris, there are opportunities. So when you look at communities such as Southside, and we talk about Kingston being the creative city, where I worked with my class, the community development, and we took the students to Southside. And they were, just blown away by the resilience of the people. So I want again to impress upon the decision makers and the technocrats to ensure that the voice and the vision of the people are included in the decision-making process. So when you have a Southside where the residents can be part of the creative arts industry, we are videotaping from all over the world are filmed there. Same with Trenchtown. Let us ensure that the activities, the decisions, the implementation of ideas take into consideration this Kingston creative cities, all the voices of the people of Kingston. And not to mention of Curry.
I think there's being constructed and should open shortly. Jubilee is almost complete.
Jubilee Market, but there's
well, you see, that's the thing.
UDC.
You know that people are registered to go into the market. And then they go in the market, and a new set of vendors go in front of the market, and their customers are captured before they even reach inside. So then they go back on the street.
So they're indisciplined again.
Yes, that's the whole thing. Because, downtown, there's infrastructure problems. Drainage.
Yeah.
Downtown is, when it rains, you don't know what water you're walking in. You don't have to go there, but it is that type of thing.
That is so true. So the major issues, as we wrap up, consultation,
including yes, it must be an inclusive city plan.
Yeah, I want to thank you both for joining us. It's been an interesting discussion. I'm sure we're going to have quite a few more of these discussions in the coming years because things are changing quite rapidly.
Yeah.
Months and years. Months and years.
It.
Thanks for joining us, Christopher Liu and Dr. Carol Archer. When we come back, we'll have more right here on Point. Welcome back to On Point. In 2013, Red Stripe launched Project Grow to increase the use of locally grown produce in their production.
They contracted local farmers to grow cassava, which they substituted for imported products. Here's more on that.
A good 85% of the starch required for Red Stripe's beer processing is now imported. That is one of the main reasons the company has launched Project Grow, to plant more cassava so the starch can be harvested and reduce the need for imports. Farms operations manager at Red Stripe, Easton McLean, says less than 20% of the starch from local cassava is used in the brewing process. However, the plan is to have that continuously increase.
Currently, in terms of our beer process, we're at 15% now in the beer. The aim is that at the end of this year, we want to bring that up to 20%, and by 2020, we're aiming to boost that up to 40%.
To make this possible, the company now has almost 1,000 acres of land dedicated to cassava cultivation.
Currently, Red Stripe owns 4 farms, Bernal Lodge, Windsor Farm, Spring Plain Farm, and the Wallen Farm, where we own, actually we have under cultivation 956 acres.
And we're joined now by Dr. Cavell Francis Riney. She's Total Productivity Manager at Red Stripe. And we also have with us Charmaine Blair Stewart. She's one of the farmers under Red Stripe's Project Grow. Welcome to On Point.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome,
Good to have you both.
So, Cavell, let's start with you. How is Project Grow going?
Project Grow is going very well. I think maybe you should ask Charmaine and not me.
Well, I want to know from your point of view in terms of the cost substitution. You know, is it less costly? Are you seeing greater productivity from it?
We're on track for it to be more cost effective for us. We had set a target for 2020, and we're on our way to that. So by 2020, when we're 40% substitution, we should be breaking even.
Also, how much substitution are you now?
We're at 15% substitution.
So how much cassava is being grown locally as part of Project Grow?
Currently, we're over 2,000 acres. Red Stripe run farms about 950 of that 2,000, and the other is through contract farmers like Charmaine.
Ah, so Charmaine, you're one of the farmers. You roll your pants up and go out in the field and toil and everything too?
I do, yes.
Yeah? So how did you get in touch with, well, in contact with Red Stripe to make that partnership?
All right, Mr. Watson, Theo Watson, is an extension officer from Red Stripe. He came on the agro park because I'm a part of the agro park, the Plantain Garden River Agro Park.
Where is that?
In St. Thomas, the Plantain Garden Agro Park. Plantain Garden River Agro Park. So he came there with the proposal, and some of us didn't actuate, so I acted up on it. I went to a meeting at RADA. That's where I signed my first application and initially got my contract.
What were you growing before?
I had onion at one point. Sometimes I would have, it's a seasonal agro park, and we are contracted farmers as well. So we would have onions at times, we would have pumpkin, or pepper, and sweet potato.
So how is the farming business going though? I mean, and specifically this project?
This one is going great, I can tell you that much.
Look at the smile, I can tell it's true.
It is going great, yes.
So tell me, Cavell, about the relationship between agriculture and manufacturing, because it's not all the time, it's not often that we hear a Jamaican business, especially an iconic brand like Red Stripe, actually partnering with farmers to develop the raw material to go into your product.
Well, there's a symbiotic relationship between manufacturing and agriculture. And if you look at other industrialized countries, that relationship is very strong. And what we at Red Stripe tried to do with Project Grow was to engender that sort of relationship and be an example of how you can be a successful business and partner with the agriculture sector to develop a value chain that is sustainable.
So I'm particularly interested in your push into farming, Sharon. What did you do before, and why did you decide to get into farming?
I was a teacher.
A teacher?
Yes.
So why
Really?
did you decide to, yeah.
All right, my first husband decided that he don't need to work. So I wasn't working for quite a while. Then we had our divorce, separation and our divorce, and there was nothing else to do. So a friend of mine one day took me to the farm, and I was looking around and I was like, let me try this. I think I can do this. That's where I got my interest peaked.
You know, a lot of people, especially women and young people as well, would say, farming, no man, I'm not gonna go to no hot sun, go to no farming. I'm interested, just like Dennis is, why you decided that I'm gonna take this on.
Better than that, my dad told me, he's 90 years old, he told me earlier that the only time my hand would go on the ground is if I fall. So it comes as a surprise to many persons that have taken up farming. Farming is fascinating.
Yeah?
You plant a seed and it grows. You watch that seed grow and the stages that it goes through. It's really fascinating, and sometimes it's overwhelming.
Even more fascinating, you get money for it. Eh?
Definitely. At the end of the day, you are paid, and that's where the reward comes.
And it's profitable, eh?
Yes, it is.
That's where the reward comes, really.
Do you find that you have a green thumb? Well, you must if you're still in the business.
Green thumb, no, I haven't seen it at that point.
Because me now, every time I try a plant,
Boy, if it was
it doesn't really make
it. I'd go to business. But,
it doesn't survive.
I'm really impressed, and you know, I like the fact also that, well, 2 females here, and you're the productivity person.
Yes, I am.
So, what do you actually do in terms of the productivity at RedStripe? You look at the various processes and see how you can improve them?
Yes, it's overall productivity from end to end, the entire supply chain. So I look at all the different processes and how we can improve them in terms of machine performance, performance of people, and so on.
So this is just one project.
So this is just one aspect of what we
do you plan to expand more into local input, substituting for imports?
Incidentally, you know, RedStripe has always been sourcing locally. Cassava was our foray into agriculture, but we have been sourcing a lot of our packaging material, for example. Some of our other raw material that we input into the beer is also locally sourced. So we have always had a local sourcing initiative. Cassava and Project Grow is an extension of that source that we had from before.
So if you can answer this question, would you say that RedStripe today has more local inputs than when it was locally owned?
Well, I wasn't at RedStripe before.
No, but you'd have seen what the changes were. And
but we have not been locally owned for a while now.
I know.
And I think we are at about 30% local input overall when you consider cassava, packaging material, and all of that. And I think we're growing beyond what we're at now. In 2020, when we get to 40% cassava in the beer, we would have eliminated the importation of high maltose corn syrup altogether.
You know, it's interesting you pointed that out, Dennis. Do you remember that lawsuit that somebody, I don't remember where in the States or somewhere, was suing RedStripe because they claimed to be Jamaican owned, and then, you know.
So it would be interesting to know.
The Jamaican beer, but it really is, because it's a product of the country. It originated
and
here.
Subsequently to that, as you know, we would have repatriated the production from the U.S. back to Jamaica. So all the beer that we produce.
So would you say that RedStripe has the most local content of all the beverages, similar beverages out there, or not?
Well, there's nothing similar to RedStripe.
No, but,
it's one of
I mean, like other things like the locally produced rum and that sort of thing.
I wouldn't say that, because as you know, locally produced rum, the sugar industry has been the buttress for that. So I wouldn't say that we are. But certainly we have been innovating. And we continue to innovate, not just with cassava, but with our packaging material and other material as we go along.
So how many communities are you in now, Project Grow?
So we are pretty much in every parish except for Trelawney and St. James, in terms of where we have farmers located. And we have 4 farms that are located in between St. Catherine and Clarendon that we operate.
Is it almost an island-wide operation?
Yes, so it is almost an island-wide operation.
So how do you, Charmaine, deal with the transportation? Because that is really the high cost of agriculture, I think.
RedStripe covers all of that.
RedStripe deals with everything?
Yes. So we cover transportation costs.
So how long did you say you've been farming?
For 10 years.
10 years. Yes. And with Project Grow would have been how long?
Just a year.
Oh, just a year. Yes. So how has this really changed your life?
Funny enough, when Project Grow came along, it couldn't have come at a better time for me. I had lost my husband in 2013. We got married 2 months and 8 days, and he died. He was killed. And I have been through a traumatic time. I have been diagnosed with PTSD, and I suffer from chronic depression. At the time when I signed up with RedStripe and Project Grow, I was at my lowest, really. And I got to, when Mr. Watson came to the farm, I went to that meeting, because usually I don't come out. I was recluse for the 3 years.
Wow.
I am still, I'm still recluse, but
because of national TV,
because of Project Grow, I have been more sociably than I've ever been in years.
Yeah.
No, I went to the meeting at RADA, I signed up, and from there on, everything is a bliss, really. It's overwhelming because, as I tell persons, that Red Stripe didn't give me an open door or window, it gave me a whole house.
Wow.
Yes.
So do you have any employees?
Yes, I've got workers with me, yes.
How many?
I have one main man, he's my main man, and usually I take on laborers.
Are there other people in your community that are doing this type of project as well?
Yes.
So what's the impact in your community that you've observed?
Oh, everybody wants to plant cassava now. Everybody wants to plant cassava. I tell you, persons call me night and day. I don't get much sleep, so it's okay for them to call me. And talking about farming kind of helps me to, it eases me into communication and social life, really. If it's not about farming, you don't get me talking. But as I say, persons call me and have an interest, really. I have to be printing application forms from my phone on my printer at home. Persons keep asking me, how do I get on board?
So you've become like the liaison for Red Stripe?
Can you imagine I'm an ambassador?
So you receive any commission for it?
That's what I'm wondering.
I think that's in the making.
Well, yeah.
Cavell?
Yes, Cavell, you have to make sure she's being productive.
Yes, I have printed so much application forms, and it helps me, it soothes me really, and it's like a therapy, you know, to help persons to see that there is other things out there. You don't have to sit on the sidewalk and, you know, do the hand thing, or you don't have to turn to begging, you know. You can do something, you plant, you can get lands, you can try to acquire lands to plant.
I'm happy you asked a question about impact on community, because one of the things with Project Grow, what makes it unique is that it's not just about the farmers, but we also train young people as farmers through Heart NTA to work on our farms. And to date, we have trained 120 young people, all employed to Red Stripe Farms, and also our processing plant.
Nice.
So we are having an impact not just on the farmers that we're partnering with, but also the young people that we're training. And we recruit the young people from the communities that our farms are located in.
And
so we
add
try
to
to
that,
impact the community.
I have had 25 of these youths working for me for the past 2 weeks. They were there doing some work, planting. So what she's saying, what Cavell is saying really, that Red Stripe is not only outgrowing cassava, they're also impacting on the communities with the at-risk youth and unattached youths. So it's really an outreach program, and they're doing quite well.
So this is part of your CSR?
It's part of our supply chain mandate. It's not just our corporate social responsibility. In fact,
it doubles.
It doubles. Things, eh? But if our parent company is Heineken, and part of the business thrust of Heineken is sustainability, and local sourcing is a big part of that.
Is there any Heineken beer made in Jamaica?
Yes.
And
any Heineken that you drink here is brewed here.
Oh, really?
No. At this point, we're only using cassava in Red Stripe and Dragon.
Oh. So I mean, why don't you use then Heineken also?
Heineken has a special recipe that doesn't allow for the use of cassava.
Those foreign things, no local things.
Well, the water is local.
The water is local.
Yes, and the labor.
Okay, yeah. So let me ask you, Charmaine, what about mechanization? Do you think that you go that way? Are you mechanized in any way? I mean, are you thinking of that to increase your productivity, since we're talking about productivity?
No, because have persons do the actual work, manual work. You need to employ persons just as much. You can't have mechanics doing everything. The fact that we have the tractor doing the land preparation is mechanical enough.
Okay. Okay.
And it's difficult to mechanize cassava.
Yeah,
even some of the largest producers of cassava, Brazil, for example, that's one of the major challenges. However, we are semi-mechanized on the Red Stripe farms. So land preparation, as Charmaine pointed out, is done using a tractor. We also harvest using a tractor and a harvester. Which is just an implement that you attach at the back of the tractor to uproot the cassava.
But the reason why I ask, because I don't personally see that mechanization is bad, because what it does when you have mechanization is that you improve the value added of the job that you give to the person once you mechanize. I mean, we did mechanize with sugar, for example, and look where we are.
Yeah.
You know, after decades of doing it, people are still doing what they did decades ago, and
centuries ago,
and there's no real living from it. Yeah. So I don't think we should look at mechanization as bad. What it does is it increases the amount that you can do, and then you can employ skilled labor. Is that what you see? And you're a productivity person too. So.
And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying cassava as a crop globally has not benefited from wide-scale mechanization. It is something that is still in its embryonic stages. So, for example, a year ago I was in Brazil looking at a prototype that was built, but it's nowhere near to commercialization.
So maybe, Charmaine, one of the things that you can do is go and develop that form of mechanization, make some more money.
Maybe, but being hands-on for the planting of the sticks, it has to be a particular dimension to be planted. And as I said, both the sticks and the spacing. So for the machine to have that exact dropping point, and then for it to cover the dirt, to cover it in the proper manner, you're gonna still have persons walking around pushing the sticks down the ground. For the uprooting, I've seen the uprooters work, and it chops the tubers up, and that's a loss, because even though it chops the tubers up, and then you have to walk and look for that tuber. So when I have a couple of guys working, uprooting the thing, it's much easier, and you find that
more cost effective.
Yes.
That way.
You know, I find this entire discussion so interesting. From the first time I heard about Red Stripe using cassava, you know why? Years ago, studying history in high school, I recall being told about the Caribs, the Carib Indians, the Native Americans, using cassava to make beer.
The Kalinagos, yes.
Right, using cassava to make beer. And then now here we are, all these centuries later, using cassava to make beer. And it's like, why didn't we think of this before? No brainer. I think it's really ingenious what Red Stripe is doing with this initiative.
But I tell you, whenever I think of cassava, the only thing I think about is that nice piece of fried bami.
Oh, you should try the actual tuber. It is really nice too, you know.
Okay.
Yes. There's so many different things you can do with cassava
in flour.
I say cassava flour, beans.
Cassava flour, which is gluten-free for persons who are gluten-sensitive like myself. In other parts of the world outside of Bami, they make different confectionaries and so on with cassava. So it's a very versatile crop, and it's actually seen as one of the crops from a food safety standpoint that we should be growing more of to feed the world. So, and from a brewing standpoint, it's perfect because it's very neutral and it doesn't affect color or taste. So it's the same Red Stripe beer with a different ingredient, yes, but it doesn't affect the profile of the beer.
Just before we go, Cavell, tell us about the knowledge sharing event that Red Stripe has coming up.
Right, so we have a knowledge sharing event coming up where we will be looking at how we can further develop the cassava industry, the cassava value chain in Jamaica. We are very excited about it because we have been doing a lot of research experiments on our farms. Our farms are both a nursery and source of tubers, but also where we do a lot of research with the Ministry of Agriculture and also some of our international partners. So the knowledge sharing activities really to have further dialogue with members of the industry and to share what we have found, because our intention is not to keep it to ourselves.
And that's going to be on what date?
The 21st.
of November.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Cavell Francis Riney and also Charmaine Blair Stewart. You heard their stories. Interesting discussion here. Red Stripe using cassava. When we come back, we'll have the numbers and your word on the street.
Growth Tech is making connectivity like oxygen. Wherever you see the Growth Tech free Wi-Fi, feel free to connect. Watch, connect, and go, allowing you to chat, check, browse, and email securely. So when you're on the go and need to connect with friends, family, or a team member, or just stay updated, look for Growth Tech's free Wi-Fi. Growth Tech, making connectivity like oxygen.
Welcome back to On Point. As you heard before the break, Red Stripe's Project Grow is having a tremendous social impact as well as improving the company's bottom line. Here are the numbers.
Red Stripe now has almost 1,000 acres of land dedicated to cassava cultivation. Currently, 85% of the starch required for Red Stripe beer processing is imported. The company hopes to increase the current local inputs in its production from 15% to about 40% by 2020. To achieve this target, Red Stripe hopes to increase the amount of third-party lands by 700 acres by year-end. That's in addition to the over 1,300 acres of land currently cultivated through the project's Outgrow program. Farmers who are interested in establishing farms through Project Grow now have access to financing with loans of up to $15 million.
And our On Point team hit the streets and asked Jamaicans, what are your thoughts on the new high-rise developments in Kingston?
New high-rise mean new jobs, you know, so can't complain about them, don't it?
Seem like a good idea to me, like nothing seem wrong. If you look overseas, that's how the building them look and make the place look way more developed and more modern. So yeah, nothing wrong with that. It's a good look.
New buildings just mean that better things is happening for Jamaica, and whether it be business places or housing developments, mean us young girls can come out and own a house or apartment or, you know.
A rising apartment. It do helps because you don't have that wide space of land, but the building can go up and more people can find it possible to own a home in a high-rise building, whether it's a 10 store, 15 stories, 20 stores. It works.
I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's a great development for the country because after all, people need homes, people need place to live, and from you can afford it, I don't see no problem with it.
You know, lots of interesting points raised about the high-rise issue, Dennis.
Yes,
in particular, Dr. Carol Archer's point about making sure that we have mixed income, or housing for mixed income populations, because that's where the need exists.
Yeah, and that's going to be a culture change also, you know, once we have that, because, you know, Jamaicans are. But I think we have to go there. But what's interesting for me and where I'd like to focus is the fact that we're doing all of this development and we're not doing the proper planning for a proper city, a modern city with proper transportation system, proper security, you know,
proper parking.
We're not doing all of that. So, you know, is this going to result in chaos? You know, beautiful chaos. You know, a nice skyline with a lot of chaos.
I sure hope not, because all this investment right now in widening and expanding the road network, and then you just end up with another problem down the line.
Well, they still have the same taxman on the roads, with all the infrastructure that they're developing. So, you know,
and then our discussion with the people from Red Stripe, Dennis.